Hi, I'm Rebecca and welcome back for episode 2 of my Festive podcast specials.
The wonders of life.
So hi, I am Rebecca. I'm a knitter, knitwear designer and podcaster, and I'm based in Edinburgh in Scotland, and I normally run a podcast, and throughout the month of December I'm running sort of a weekly podcast with the intention of including some like vlog style elements. But today we've got like a straight up podcast because I've had such a busy week with work. I feel like I've barely had time to knit, and so there's been very little time for anything else. I have all these like festive crafts lined up and I wanted to show one every week, and as far as I got this week was I have some dried oranges in my oven right now, and that's the closest I got to make a garland. But they didn't dry in time for me to film today, so yeah, I'm hoping that over the next couple of weeks it might just start getting very busy and just having lots of festive crafts every episode, because there are only 2 episodes left and a lot of crafts still on my list. We will see. That's also very dependent on how busy my work, my 9 to 5 stays, because it's very busy right now. Anyway, I'm really rambling. I've just started. So today is going to be like a straight up podcast episode. Even then, normally it'd be like finished objects, works in progress and acquisitions. I don't have any finished objects and I don't have any acquisitions, so it's really just like a bit of a whip parade and a bit of a chatter, which, yeah, I hope you enjoy. I have got a couple of works in progress to talk about, 2 new cast-ons since last week, and some advent knitting to update you on. Don't be fooled, I have ordered things. I've got a project bag on its way to me, and I did order some yarn in the Host Black Friday sale, but the postal system in the UK is falling apart because we've got lots of strikes going on, which are very justified strikes, but it does mean that we are basically like, there's no post arriving anytime soon. But it does mean that once the post system is back up and running properly, I will undoubtedly have a slew of acquisitions to show you in the way of project bags and some yarn. So before I get into what I'm working on, let me talk about what I'm wearing. I put this on because it's cold here this week. Now I know all you Canadians are going to be sitting there and they're like, oh, but it's -40, like it's not that cold. It's cold for Scotland, like it's relatively cold, so I think it's been around about the 0 all week, and it's getting sort of up to maybe 2 or 3 degrees during the day, and it's getting down to like -2 or -3 at night. So a real like frosty turn. It snowed yesterday, which I did take some footage of, so I won't be for that at the very end. But it's just cold. We both work from home, so we have the heating on, but we don't have it on all day every day, just sort of just like throughout the day at different points, and we're very much like a put your sweater on first and then we'll talk about the heating household. And so I am wearing like one of my coziest sweaters with a turtleneck, and it's quite a thicker gauge, and it's really very wearable. I do find this one harder to wear when it's not cold, if that makes sense. It's very much like a winter sweater and not like a transitional sweater. So it is the sweater number 11 by My Favourite Things Knitwear, which is not a particularly size inclusive pattern. I have since sort of committed to only knitting patterns from inclusive designers. I think they're improving their sizes. Their last one came out up to a 4XL, so hopefully that's like trending upwards. If you wanted to recreate this and also want to pick an inclusive pattern, the best I think would be the Wednesday sweater from Petite knit. This is knit at, I don't remember the exact gauge, but it's knit with a strand of worsted and a strand of mohair. So I use Cascade 220 and Filcolana Tilia. This is the first time I use Filcolana Tilia, and it is my favourite mohair. It's also wearing pretty well. It's got this high collar and these like quite deep cuffs, which I like, and it's all in twisted rib, which it's a bit of like a labour of love. Like twisted rib is a lot of work, but it's really pretty. It's a bit of a crop length. I'm not going to stand up because I'm wearing to lock everything over, but it kind of hits me like right at the waist, and it's got some slightly more fitted sleeves. Like the body is pretty loose, but the sleeves are more fitted. I knit the smallest size available. There are only 3 sizes for this pattern, and I can't remember what the 3 are, but it's meant to be like super oversized, and I went for, I mean it's still an oversized sweater, but I went for less oversized, and I think I still have like 20 plus centimetres of positive ease, but I like it. It's a really cosy sweater. It has served me well. I've had it on most of the week because it's just been really warm and really cosy, especially working from home. And the thought of taking it off and putting something else on the podcast made me feel cold. So I'm keeping it on for the podcast. And also, it's nice to show things from a while ago, show how they're wearing, show how I often wear them. Getting some ideas for, I'm definitely doing an everything I knit in 2022 video. Probably at some point in December. Probably, I've got some time off between Christmas and New Year. So one of those days I will film that video and I'm so excited for it. But it has made me start thinking about the sweaters that I've made earlier in the year and how, like, do I wear them, do I not wear them? And I'm looking forward to that. So that is what I am wearing. This is actually the perfect gauge for my next releasing pattern, which is the Dornie. So this yarn combination would be really good for it. Just keeping that in mind. In my head, I think my Dornie sweater is a hard gauge to get because it's an iron weight, so it's a worsted and I did worsted and fingering, sorry, worsted and lace. But actually this is exactly the same gauge, so maybe I should look at what other people have knit this in and then have a look at those yarns. So, works in progress. I've got 4. Where should I start? Well, I just talked about my Dornie and let me talk about that a bit more. So, I'll have a picture on screen of my Dornie sweater. This is a top-down cable knit sweater. It's a raglan design. It's a really, really easy cable knit sweater actually. It's lovely. It's very simple. The same cable everywhere. The cables are pretty far apart. It's a pretty big gauge and it's a raglan, so it really ticks a lot of boxes in terms of like fit and ease and joy to knit. I am doing a test knit for this right now. Oh, I've just seen there's a little like purple fleck in my yarn. I'll show you in a minute. I did a tester call and the test started just under like a week and a half ago, I think. It was a bit of a stressful first week. I thought all the charts were wrong and it turned out there was just like one typo in the pattern. So I started like rewriting all the charts and it turned out not to be needed, which was a bit stressful, but that was completely my own fault because I should have just realised what was wrong. But the test has started. I'm really excited about the test, and one of the things I'm doing is also knitting myself a second sample. So I knit the first sample at pretty much like 0 ease, or like I think it's got 1 centimetre of ease, and I really like the fit, but I'm going to size up in the next one and have 2 samples. Yeah, and I just love the sweater. I'm excited to knit it again. And I think that by the time you knit a sample and then you write it up and then you get it to testers and then the test period ends, it's really hard to stay on top of how the pattern works. So I quite like knitting a second one because you feel you're still very like involved in the process. And so I cast mine on. So let me talk about the yarn. I am using, my first one is a bit of a bougie version. It is using Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool and Sadness Garn tin silk mohair, which is an expensive combination. They're both like, they're not bank breaking yarns, but when you hold them together it does make for a more expensive yarn. So I wanted to use a much more budget friendly option for my second sample. So I am using West Yorkshire Spinners Jacobs Fleece. This is an iron weight yarn, 100% British wool, reared, sheared and spun in Britain, which is lovely. It is 166 metres, which is 182 yards per hank, so it should be absolutely perfect for gauge. This is what distracted me. There's like a little bit of purple, a little purple fleck, and it's really like, it's really tied on there, like it's really caught in. So I'll have to cut that off or something. Oh, it's like spun in, it's sitting between the 2 plies. Anyway, this is the yarn. It arrived this week and it's about, I think, £6 a skein. And I think I needed, I can't remember how many I ordered, but I priced it up and I think it comes in, yeah, around about £50, which I think for an iron weight is pretty good. I think for some people that'll still not be super budget friendly, but I think it's a nice price point to build a display, a more affordable option. So I've caked up one and I have barely started. Ultimately, for me to understand, you know what, I've swatched, which if anyone's been here for a while will know that my last design, the Care Sweater, which I've released and is out in the world, I made a 3rd sample and I didn't swatch and I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And it turned out way too big. So what I will do is I'm going to keep going with this and I will stop I probably might even maybe seam block it, I think, once I've done a little bit of it, seam block, and see how my gauge is looking before I keep going with the yoke. So this is all I've done so far. I'm not even joining the round yet, but that is okay. I really just wanted to validate those first couple of rows that I thought were wrong in the pattern, like they were wrong in the pattern, the typo. So I changed the typo and then I followed the instructions to cast this on to make sure that what I was writing made sense, and yeah, that's been really good. So that's exciting. So I'm not very far with it. I think it just needs maybe like an evening or two to make good progress with the yoke, and it's a bit frustrating, the fully charted pattern, but it's a very intuitive pattern. Like I did the whole first version without a chart. It's a repeated pattern, and so like I went back to it afterwards and like wrote the chart up so I could send it to the grader, but I just want to get to a stage where the pattern is established and I know what I'm doing, and I have like an end number, so I say okay, I have to go to here, and at that point I change what I'm doing, and that's where I want to get to, so like I can just pick it up whenever I need to. But as you can see, I'm not there yet. Something really interesting, this is the first time I've worked with a grader. Well, that's not true. I had the Cargill Junior graded by the same person. Her name is also Rebecca. She did an amazing job. She did a wonderful job with the Cargill Junior, which is also, it'll be out. Oh, it's out next week, the Cargill Junior. I need to write up the final pattern, which I should do this weekend. The Cargill Junior is coming out next week, but I worked with the same grader for that. But it was a bit different because I graded the original pattern myself and I really understood the construction, and so I was very on top of it, and it's not so well, it's also heavily charted. But for this I worked with the same grader who's done so far a great job. She's really great to work with, and there aren't so far any sizing issues, but we've just started, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. But I felt really removed from the process, so I had some questions coming about like, oh, what about like row 3 for size 5, and I was like, I don't know. And that's something that I think is interesting, and I need to sort of work out how to balance. Yeah, anyway, I was saying, yeah, I think it's something interesting. Like I definitely would not have had the time or brain space to grade this in the time it took to get graded. I think maybe 3 weeks it took to do it. I wouldn't have been able to do that. But it also made me a bit more removed from the tech editing process, the test editing process. So I feel like I can't answer my testers' questions as quickly and efficiently as I would like to, or like give them reassurances, because I have to say, oh, let me go and check. So it's interesting. I'm just being very transparent about the process. I'm enjoying it. I'm finding it a bit nerve-wracking. I'm not feeling as comfortable in the test net as I usually am, because I feel like if there's an issue I need to really go and like dig into the pattern to find the problem, whereas if I've graded it myself I'm already really familiar with what's happening. Does that make sense? So yeah, interesting insight into the designing world, but it is nice that I can keep I think if I hadn't been using a grader, like this pattern wouldn't be coming anytime soon, so that's quite nice. The pattern is due for release at the end of January, so I've got loads of time with this. I cast it on now. I'd like to, I feel like I've got other things that need more priority right now, so I don't know when I'll get properly into this, but I'd like it to be my festive knit. So I think I finish work on the 22nd of December. I've taken some time off, and I would like to be able to like settle down and knit on this throughout the Christmas period. So yeah, it's interesting. It's been, like I said, really busy with work. I've been working late almost every night. Last night I finished work at 6:30 after starting at 8 AM, 7:30, 8 AM, and it just felt weird. I was like, what do I do with this time that I'm finished? Because otherwise I've been finishing really quite late, and I've been writing up a pattern and going through some of the pattern edits for the Dornie, so I've just been like tied to my laptop this week. So I feel like I've got no knitting done, but yeah, I'm excited. Like I feel like this weekend I've got not much planned and I can just settle in and enjoy, and hopefully, like usually I'm really chatty today. Normally I think about 4 hours of knitting a day. I definitely get like a solid half hour in the morning, and then usually 1 to 2 hours throughout the day depending on how busy my meetings are. So I knit through my meetings. So today I had like an hour and a half workshop this morning from 9 till 10:30. I just knit through all of that. So that is like, I can still engage and I can have conversations. I'm not required to take any notes. So those kind of calls, I just knit through all of them. And in the evening, I usually have another like hour and a half to 2 hours of knitting time. But this week I've had maybe an hour a day, like an hour to 2 hours a day, which is a lot for some people, but for me, it's like half of the time I usually have. And so I'm feeling very deprived. It makes me feel like my work-life balance is off. I feel like work is it feels very intense because I'm like, I don't have the time to stop and chill afterwards. Anyway, that's all very rambly. I've got another design to get into, but let me mix it up and talk about another new cast on, which is also like a very similar colour story. So as I said, it's been freezing cold this week and I've been watching a lot of Vlogmas. And if you're also watching Vlogmas, you might be watching Laura Penrose I think she's just Penrose Knits now. She was originally the knitting pickle. I'm not sure if she's still a knitting pickle. But she has been making a whole host of penny gloves, which is patterned by Petite knit for literally everyone that she knows. I think she's knitting like 6 pairs for her kids, teachers and all this sort of thing. And I just really wanted them. And then it got really cold this week and it's been cold at home and I've just been thinking, like, imagine a little like fingerless pair of gloves that I could still type with. And so I cast on penny gloves. It also kind of happened because I ordered not the wrong yarn, but I had great intentions. You might remember knitting a Sophie scarf, shawl, the big one. But my advent is garter, so I was going to make a couple of gift knits which were Sophie scarves, but my advent is garter, the Sophie scarf is garter, and I just can't be bothered knitting more garter. But for that, what I had ordered was some really soft alpaca weight yarn, and so what I'm doing is I'm using that instead with the gloves. So I am holding a strand of Filcolana Pernilla and Filcolana Alva, and the Pernilla is a fingering weight, I think it's Pernilla, and the Alva is a lace weight yarn. So I'm a little bit above gauge and it's definitely making for a bit of a dense fabric, but I'm not mad about that for gloves. Like, it feels a bit like similar to like a sock gauge for me. It's okay. It doesn't look too tight, it just feels quite dense. And so this is all we have. Now I cast these on yesterday, so there's not very much going on. I've just started thumb increases. That's my very first one. And so I think Laura said you can knit them in 5 hours, like a glove in 5 hours. I can totally see that. So this is what I have so far. So it'll go from here up, and then I think you increase up for the thumb, and then you're going to separate the thumb out, knit a little bit here, and then pick up for the thumb and finish them. It is feeling pretty snug on my wrist, but I like that. I think it's pretty cozy. I measured and I am ever so slightly under gauge. Now I am pretty much always bang on gauge for petite knit patterns, which is odd because I'm a loose knitter and I almost always have to go down a size for everyone else. But I do not have a long cord for the size needle that I want. I need to order some more Childgood cables. All my cables are longer or in use somewhere, and my knit pros don't go down to the size I need. I think they do if I have a wooden needle, to be honest, but I don't know, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to use metal. So I've got a 2.5mm needle with a longish cord that originally I think was for a pair of socks, which I never ever use. I am also convinced I've mentioned before, my boyfriend taught himself how to knit a few years ago to make me a hat for Christmas, which is completely adorable. And he made himself a pair of socks. Well, he made himself a single sock. He's never made the second one. But he has got like a tiny knit kit, which is basically like 2 pairs of needles, a darning needle, and I'm sure what he called like his emergency needle, which is definitely a long, like a magic loopable needle, which he would use instead of having to put a lifeline in. He was helping, his mum got into knitting and he was helping his mum at the same time he was learning. And so he'd like feed that in all the way along underneath the row he was in and then just rip out back to that needle, which is clever. But it's definitely, I think that would work, but I need to go find it. He doesn't really knit anymore, so I can just steal that needle. But I'm wondering if that's a 3mm, because that would be perfect. Because this is a 2.5 and it's just a fraction too tight now. If I block it, like I can definitely, it's off by something ridiculous, like one stitch per 10 centimeters, and it's 25 It's like 25 or 26 stitches per 10 centimetres, so it's really not a massive difference. But maybe for gifts, if I'm going to make a few more pairs for gift knits, I should maybe go to the accurate size needle. And yeah, this was all done in a 1 hour call yesterday. So I've done the initial part, I started the increasing, easy peasy. It's nice to have something small and portable. I don't really think we're going anywhere this weekend. At least I hope we're not going anywhere this weekend because I don't want to go anywhere this weekend. We might go out on Sunday actually. And if we do, then I've got something like small and dinky that I can just take with me. I've got some more of this yarn that would match I showed it last time, 2 times ago, more Pernilla in the same colour as my Sophie scarf, or Sophie shawl, I can't remember which one it is. So I'll cast them on for myself as well at some point. I think these ones might be a gift, and I'd like to make a second gift pair, and then probably, you know, all great plans. At that point I'll be completely sick of them and I won't want to make myself any, but we'll see. We will see. Okay, goodness, it's gonna be a short one. I've only got 2 more things to show. Okay, I'll show my final design first and then we can close up with some advent chat. So this is my favourite knitting bag, and this is the project bag I'm waiting on. Is I got the checkered version in her new drop, and it's in the UK, but that's as far as it's gotten. So this is Kent DK, which is a beautiful yarn from Bare Naked Wools, which is a yarn company based in Ohio. As soon as I shared it, I've only had like comments from people telling me about how much they love this yarn company, how lovely and authentic the owner is, and that's just really nice. Like, it's nice. I didn't know all these things before working with them. But it's nice that when you share that you're working with a brand, people are really like that brand and have like good things to share about that brand. It makes you feel quite confident with your decision to work with them. So they sent me some yarn. They asked me if they could send me some yarn with the intention of designing with it for a design to come out around about February time. So that is what I'm currently working towards. The goal is that there will be a tester call for this right before Christmas. Which I think would just make such a fun like cast on and work on over the Christmas break. It's a DK weight yarn. This colour is Kelp, which is like a warm brown. They've got a lot of shades of really natural colours, and I mentioned this last time, but I really want one in like honestly this colour, which they call wet sand. So this project's inside out, which I will come back to why it's inside out. But it's also in a slightly strange place. So I am yet again working with my grader again, because I literally don't have time to knit right now, never mind to grade the pattern. So I'm working with her again to grade this. So I sent the pattern off to her, but in order to have the pattern written up and ready to be graded, I had to have basically split for sleeves, done the body, and worked out how I would do the decreases on the sleeve. And so that's what I've done. So it won't look like it's much further along from last week, but I have started on the sleeve. So this is where we're at. It looks so, I'm really struggling to show off work in progress pictures of this because I think it's going to be so wearable and so beautiful, but it just kind of looks a bit lumpy at the minute until I get things done. Like, there's a zip going to go there, and then it's all going to get blocked, and then blocking, it's going to like open the stitch up and it's going to look beautiful. It's in this stunning squishy stitch, which is, now someone will know the answer. It's half fisherman's rib, but it's also half brioche, and I think that if you have this side showing, it's half fisherman's rib, and if you have this side showing, then it's considered half brioche. Does anyone know if that's the case? It is the same thing really, which is quite interesting, and I'll come back to why that's interesting. So you start working right here, you cast on with Judy's Magic Cast On, which you kind of often use in like toe-up socks. So you start with that like seam, well, not a seam, there's no seam, that's the point. And you work the collar, and then you fold the collar down. We've got some stitches currently on hold. That's my next job, is to work out how the facing works, which I'm excited about. And then it's super like, I think there may be like 3 complicated rows in the whole pattern, but it's so satisfying. The only things which are complicated ultimately are when you fold the neckband, or like just getting started with the neckband, I found challenging because I've not done that before. getting started with the back panel, and like this one row we have to like cast on stitches and put those on hold and all these things, it makes sure this like really, like the back just runs straight down into the back panel, which is, in my opinion, pretty cool. And then the pickup for the sleeves is, again, like that took some brain power, but look at that. Like that's a really clean, beautiful pickup line. So yeah, there were some complicated bits, but other than that, it's very, very rhythmic. And now I've worked out all the complicated parts, so now it's just a case of knitting. I really, really love the sleeve pickup. I think it just looks really clean. And that kind of like runs down, poking myself with a needle. Like, look at that, that just looks so cool. It all just looks really seamless, and I really love that. I love the fact that it looks like it's almost been knit in one piece because of like where you pick up and how you carry those lines through. So this is definitely my most challenging construction, yet the hardest one to like work out where stitches have to be and how many stitches there have to be. If that makes sense. It's also something I'm so excited for. I always do this. I think I'm going to make a second sample, but yeah, it's interesting because it's with Bare Naked Wools and it's their collaboration. I'd like to use, what I would normally do is make like a bougie version and a budget version, but I don't, like they approached me and they sent this out, and this pattern's been designed to be knit in their yarn. Like I talked about it a lot last episode, that I had something else in mind for the yarn, it arrived, and then what I had in mind didn't work. So I had to really go back and think about the characteristics of this yarn. It's very bouncy, it's very airy, it's a really round yarn, and so what could I do to really highlight those amazing qualities? And so I definitely want to make a second sample. I will make it in their yarn. But I need to decide, it's quite a pricey yarn, so I want to make sure that I know how much it uses so that I can order the right amount and not order too much. And I want to understand if this size is going to fit me. Do I want to change size? I think this one will be fine. I think it's going to be about 120 centimetres, which is probably 117, which is, I think, exactly what I want. So yeah, I kind of want to finish this one before I order the yarn for a new one, or at least finish like the body and a sleeve. However, I think it'll take a while to get here. I think it'll take at least 3 weeks to arrive, and I need to work out like how that'll be. Yeah, I also want to be able to film quite a lot of support for the collar and the more complicated parts and put videos in. And for that, that's the best way to do that, is to start my second sample. So I think I'll order a second, but then also, do I need 2 zipper sweaters? Almost definitely not. But I could gift this one to my mum because she would absolutely adore it. We'll see. I'm also really keen to make this as it's got very, very little shaping in it, like less. It's got things like it's got short row shaping, and it's got like shaping at the front to like build the fabric, but it doesn't have any waist shaping or like bust shaping. And so I'm really keen to make sure that there are some men testing. I've got, I think, 2 or 3 men testing the Dornie Sweater, and I'd like that to be a precedent going forward, that if men apply, the way I've done it is that if men have applied, I've made an extra spot for them. So I still have, like, if it doesn't work out or anything like that, I still have like the same amount of feedback for the pattern from those testing for women, and people testing for men, I've got like an additional spot. So I've like made an extra space for a male tester. And that's what I'd like to continue doing, so that I can make sure that if I'm releasing sweaters, based on your body shape, whether that is more masculine or feminine, you can choose a pattern and like you can make the adjustments necessary for it to fit you. So yeah, I'll ramble there. So that's the interesting thing. So yeah, what I've done is I've done the body. As you can see, it is on a tiny needle. It looks so small, but I swear like this stitch will just open up a lot. And I just picked up for the sleeve the other day, and I'm working away on the sleeve. Now, the exciting part, this is not exciting, is again, if you watched last week, I was talking about how I was struggling with my gauge. Knitting flat was completely fine, and then I went to knit in the round and I struggled. So knitting flat, I was knitting it following like half brioche instructions, which is when you are knitting and doing knits, purls and yarn overs. With half fisherman's rib, you knit into the stitch below. And I was just really struggling. Like my stitches were looking really, really uneven. My purls were really open, so my stitch was already, the rib was already much looser than it was in the flat panels. Now I'm a combination knitter, so I wrap my yarn one way for knits and the other way for purls, and there's nothing wrong with that. I definitely didn't realise I was doing that until I started knitting for a while. And I can knit like a normal purl stitch, but I don't. I actually, like, it makes my purls, if I do like a Norwegian purl or anything, my stitches become very loose. So my purl stitches are much looser than my knit stitches. So I'm knitting this sweater in the round inside out. I was thinking about it and I was like, what am I struggling with? I'm struggling with my purls being too loose on the outside, and the purls are where I'm slipping the stitch, so it just all made more sense for me to knit it on the inside. So yeah, that's what I've done, hence why I had to like flip the sleeve back around. It's quite nice to see it on camera because I feel like I'm not seeing it that way because I'm not knitting it that way. So I'm knitting it like this, which is the inside of the sleeve. So it's been really fun, it's really enjoyable, it is very meditative, it's a really fun stitch. Again, when I was trying out my swatches and working out what I wanted to look like, something I've talked about before is I really want one of my patterns to be something you really enjoy knitting and not just powering through it because you want the finished object. So the Cargill stitch pattern is very meditative, the care is like really fun and Moorish colour work, the Dornie are these like nice big chunky cables, so everything like you really don't want to put it down, you want to just keep knitting on it. And you're getting something out of the process, and this is very much the same thing. It's very rhythmic, the knit, purl, yarn over, like it really just is going really nicely, so I'm really enjoying it. I ultimately need to have the body and at least a sleeve, but preferably the whole thing done by the tester call, which will be the 23rd I think of December, which is 14 days, 2 weeks. That's actually okay, I could do that, I'm feeling confident with that. And I need to sew the zipper in. The zipper is on its way to me, but again, postal situation in the UK is a nightmare, so I need the zip to come sooner rather than later, and of course I'd like the zip to be in to be able to do the tester call, because I don't think anyone's going to want to sign up for the test if it looks the way it does right now. So yeah, that is my sweater. It has a name, and the name came from a suggestion from somebody in last week's podcast. I played around with a couple of names I like the idea of, but they weren't sticking, like nothing really stuck with me. And somebody commented down below, and I'm gonna go back and find your comment, but if it was you, please send me an email and you will have a copy of this pattern in your Ravelry or your email or whatever you'd like it when it's done, because as a little thank you from me. I mentioned that I like the idea of naming it after somewhere which is both located in Ohio and in Scotland. There are, due to a lot of migration, a lot of Scottish place names in the US and in Canada, and I like the idea of picking somewhere that was on both places, and somebody suggested Lanark, and I really like that. Lanark is, not too far from me. A few episodes ago, or like months ago, I went to the new Lanark Mill here in Scotland, and it just stuck with me. I just really liked it. It feels like a real workhorse name, and also quite gender neutral. I think it's quite a masculine inspired silhouette. So yeah, this is the Lanark sweater. I've already checked on Instagram, I think. I don't think the hashtag's already in use. So yeah, if that was you, thank you very much. Drop me an email. I can otherwise go back, and I think I only have your YouTube name, so feel free to drop me an email, and I'll send you a pattern code once. It's going to be February, but it's on its way to you. So yeah, it's beautiful. Part of me wants to not block it and just steam block it because I'm worried it's going to open up too much. But I'm so excited. My swatch is so soft that I really want to see how much this softens up in a whole sweater. Maybe I should just order the yarn today. Every time I release a pattern, I have bought myself something. So I launched the Cargill, and I bought my camera, and I launched the Care, and I bought myself a new mood bag, which again is stuck in the Royal Mail. So next week the Cargill Junior comes out, and maybe my reward to myself, my little treat to myself for producing the pattern, will be to buy the yarn to make the beige sample. So yeah, Lanark sweater, work in progress. Next week I would like to show you a whole finished sleeve and most of a finished body. That would be a good place for me to be in, I think. And before I move on to Advent, it is a little reminder to myself, I keep meaning to talk about this. So my Cargill cowl was a charity release, and so I released it at I released it like the end of October, and from the release date all the way up until the end of November, all the money raised from the pattern sales would be donated to the Fistula Foundation, and I also would be matching sales up to £600. I think I've said dollars and pounds interchangeably, but I'll stick to pounds because that's the higher value. And I said 600. I thought that if we sold enough, then hopefully I could hopefully there'd be enough sales that I could match the full 600. And I said, if we don't, I'll still put the 600 in. The amount of money raised from pattern sales before my £600 is over £4,000. I'm going to pop it on screen. It is £4,182, I think. And then with my extra £600 donation on top of that, it's going to be almost 5k. That is a huge amount of money. I'll pop again, hopefully on screen I've put the confirmation that I've put that to charity. I made sure to take a screenshot and make sure that was all done. It took me a week. I want to talk about last week, but last week we were going to this wedding and I wanted to check because in the UK there's all this stuff with gift aid and tax. So I wanted to make sure that I was giving the right amount and I was logging all the right way, and I've donated via Just Giving to their UK equivalent rather than directly on their website because that enables them for gift aid. So all that to say, there should be a thing on screen now to show you that I've paid it. That's the total amount. And yeah, it felt really, really cool to do. It was it was so much more money than I expected to raise, and I'm just really pleased. I was really on the fence about releasing the pattern because I thought, oh, is it really boring, or it's just a Cargill sweater but it's just a different way to do it. And this to me just felt like the perfect thing to do. It's there, it's out in the world, people are knitting it, but also we've raised almost £5,000 for a female, what's the word, healthcare charity. And yeah, that's really lovely. So I realised I hadn't updated on it last week. I've now updated here, and now I can stop panicking about it because I remember I'll be in the shower and I'll be like, oh, I need to remember to update everyone on the Cargill, and then I'll forget about it. So that's that. I'm also hoping to give my original sample to my grandmother. The Cargill was named after her, and I think she will really like the initial sample. And so now that it's all been photographed, and I've not worn it out, I've took photographs of it but I've not worn it out, I can wrap it up in some Christmas paper and give it to her over Christmas as a sort of mini thank you for being my inspiration. So the very last thing to get to is Advent knitting. So I am doing some Advent knitting. I talked about it a lot last time, but I've got 2 Advents. One is a swap. There are a couple of podcasters that have swapped things around. I sent mine to Natasha and Petra at Knitting, and they did an amazing episode about their Advent. And Petra opens up her that days. I get so excited. It was so amazing. I got a message from Jonathan Day from Jonathan's Days podcast, and he's like, have you seen the episode yet? I said, I've not seen it. He's like, she gets so excited, you have to go watch. And she does, it's so cute. So she opens it up and it's a beautiful Kinross 4-ply. It's not Kinross 4-ply, it's Weekendy Yarns mini ball, which I picked up at Perth Festival of Yarn, and it's in this beautiful purple teal shade, and this perfectly little pre-packaged mini skein with a chocolate and a little stitch marker, and she just gets so excited. So that was so lovely to watch somebody open it in real life. It really made my day yesterday to see that. And Petra is knitting a raglan sweater with the Advent, so excited to see how that comes along. And there's some sock yarn sprinkled out as well, so maybe she's gonna make a pair of socks, which would be nice. So I got mine then from Sarah Corrine of Sarah Corrine Knits, and I have misplaced the skein because I opened day 9 today and I cannot, day 9 is not in front of me. I have 7 skeins in front of me, so apologies. I don't know what I've done with, I moved back from my parents' house with a big bag full of yarn stuff, and I think it's just in there. But let me talk about what we have so far. So I've kind of got 2 categories. My plan with this yarn is to make I've got 2 plans, quite a few of them. They're all labelled on the envelope. I've got tomorrow's, So this is day number 10, which is tomorrow's, and you can see that the envelope is labelled with Superwash Merino Nylon, Leo and Roxy. And so my plan is, wait, what is that one? Oh, I put one back in. Oh, wait. I definitely didn't open this. I don't remember that one. Okay, I'll add that to the pile. I don't know how I managed that. Okay, so I'm only missing one. That's good. So I've got two sort of categories. One category is my sock yarns and one category is rustic yarn. So let me show you the rustic ones. Now one of them is a rustic sock yarn, but I think I'm going to keep it out of the sock yarn bundle because it is Mondim, which is a sock yarn but is a non-superwash, no nylon sock, so I think I'll keep the sock yarns, like the superwash one, separate. So these are the rustic ones we have so far, and some of them are like very varying in terms of rusticness. So these two I remember are Briggs & Little, and this one I honestly can't remember, this is terrible. There are definitely two Knitting Acabies, which might be these two. And then this one is Mondim. Now I should just be keeping the envelopes or taking a picture of the envelope so that I can remember what they are, and I've just not done it. I don't know why. So I'm annoyed at myself for that, but it's okay. So what I'm thinking is I've been seeing a lot of knitted hot water bottle covers. I think Kat from Heather and Hops, she did like a whole episode on it, and Emma from Woolly Mammoth has also just made one that's like colour work and beautiful, and I thought of making a stripy one. I have a water bottle, I use it every day, especially at the moment when it's very cold outside, and I just like burn myself with it. That's just how I operate. So I do think that, or like I wrap it in something ridiculous, like a tea towel, until it cools down, and then I unwrap it from there, and it's like a second go of it, because now it's warmer because I've taken the towel off. Ridiculous. But I'm thinking like these 4 colours so far would make a really good hot water bottle cover. I think this one might be a little bit out of the loop. Alternatively, I think I could like keep these together, which are the Briggs & Little, and start collecting some colours here for the cover. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. My plan is to just collect these all and then do some knitting of them in January. I'd like to cast on the hot water bottle cover and also make some scrappy socks. I only need like 60 grams to make a pair of socks for myself, and maybe like 70 to make a pair of socks for Sam, my boyfriend, and I've not made him socks in a while. He went through a phase where all he wore was his hand knit socks, and a couple have got holes in them and like need to be darned, and I've not made him a new pair in a while, so he's just wearing like commercial socks at the minute, which is fine, but it makes me a bit sad because he did wear them a lot, so I should make him some more socks. So I think one of these scrappy pairs will be for him. I've not had really sock mojo, so that's why he's not had any socks yet. So I'm not really sure that the colour story is going to be for the socks, but I've got 3 sock skeins so far. And to be honest, I think they all could go together. But I also think they could be separate. So my plan is just to keep collecting them until the advent's done, and then like sort them into the colours that I like and make like some piles for some socks, put some into a hot water bottle cover pile, and then if there's anything left over, decide what I want to do with those. So it's actually really fun. It's nice. First I felt a bit bad because I thought, oh, I should be knitting my advent things like as I open them every day, but actually life's quite busy right now. I'm doing a lot of stuff with like other knitting. Don't have much knitting time anyway, and so only having one that I have to knit up every day is quite nice, and then the other one I can come back to in January and like knit the fun things then when I've decided the colours. Okay, very last thing is my second advent calendar, and this is the one I'm working up every single day. Now this is a recycled advent from Alterknit Unierse, and what they do is they collect coned of like all different fibres of coned yarn, and then they take a colour theme and they like marl cakes, and you get like a marl cake every day. So what I'm doing with this is knitting it up into a blanket. What have I done with them? I thought I had 2. Oh, I do. So when I was out at my parents', I ran out of my white yarn, so what I'm doing is marling it with a cone of Woolyknit. I actually think I'm going to run out of this, but I'm going to wait to order until I think I could just order a hank, which is much cheaper than a cone because it's less yarn, and I'll wait and see how I'm getting on with it and like how much yarn I've used so far. But I'm running behind, and I'm running behind because I went to my parents and I ran out of the white yarn, and so I couldn't knit up the days there, so I'm 2 days behind. I'm not done yesterday's and I'm not done today's, But yesterday's and today's both look very similar. So this is yesterday's and this is today's. So this one's a bit more pink and this one's a bit more purple, but they're getting very close. Now, if you watched last week's, you will know they were very red. So how do we get from there to here? Now I'm halfway through a row, and the reason I'm halfway through a row is because, again, like I need to wind up some more yarn from here, which means that I'm like inconveniently halfway through a row, but also it's quite a big blanket, so it's fine to show, like it's gonna have to be folded anyway, so I'll just fold it up, try and not lose any stitches, and show you what I've got so far. So we started right down here with like this very bright red, and then I went into like a sort of gingerbread, and then another red, and then a darker red, and then a black, and then a silvery black, and then this is like a mohair purple. I'm a bit worried that it's going to be a very, like this was definitely a purple. You can, I guess you can kind of see it's purple a bit, but this is definitely like a much darker, oh of course I put them all with stitches. This is a much darker colour, this last one, than this one will be, and so I'm a bit worried about that, but also I'm just embracing it because it was not very expensive. It was £40, which given the state, like given the price of a lot of advent calendars, is very, very inexpensive. And I'm just trying to embrace it and not stress about the colour choices and just go with it. Because actually, this looks pretty cool. Like this looks really quite nice. And we'll see where it goes and we'll see where it lands. But I was stressing about the reds last week and now I'm stressing about purples, so really I should just stop stressing about it altogether. So it's a garter stitch blanket. It is very loosely based on the, I don't know what it's called, but by a homespun house, I think, who has also, does advents. I only know that because I watched Nitty Natty's Vlogmas, and I think she has one of the homespun house advents. And in the tradition, in that one, you use, I think, 24 20-gram minis and 5 skeins of undyed fingering weight. So I only have half of that amount of yarn. So what I'm doing is striping it instead of, so I'm marling and I'm striping. And this is kind of my attempt at getting the most out of the yarn as possible. I originally started, I wish I'd started with a white stripe to be honest, but I started with this and then I realised that I was not going to have a very big blanket if they were all, if it was just this strap, this colour, the one in the advent, and I chose to stripe it. And I think the striping and the marling is also making it much more coherent. Like it looks a bit more purposeful, I'm not sure. So we will see. I should measure this because that's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I should probably do the 8th colour and then measure it and see how big it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a huge blanket. I cast on for the number of stitches in the pattern. I went down a half needle size because I thought I'd lost my 5mm needles. I didn't lose them, I just put them back in the wrong space in my case. But I'm using my 5mm needles for my Dornie now, so it's a good thing that I used a different one. So yeah, I'm using 4.5mm needles, and I do plan to give this a good block and like to try and block out a little bit, like stretch it out to a bigger size. I'm not gonna go wild with that, but garter is a really squishy stitch pattern, so I'm just gonna aim to like put a bit more length into it, put a bit more width into it, see how we get on. So we do have, I think I said I'd do this last time and I didn't do it, but I'll put the artwork inspiration here. If I put that there and then I hold this up, can you see the inspiration coming through? I'm expecting some like teal colours, I guess, and it's weird, we're only a third of the way through. It's only 1/3 through, which is really impressive. Something that's also really interesting is the fibre content. So I don't think it shows up so much, especially because I'm marling, but this purple is in fact like a very fluffy, like I think like an acrylic mohair. You can maybe kind of see that of the halo. And there was like some silver, and I think both of these are cotton, which is interesting. I also talked about last time that I opened my 25th day skein. Skip ahead if you don't want to, or like put your fingers in your ears if you don't want to hear what that colour is. But that colour is this. So I've also got a 100 gram skein of this, which I find a bit weird. I don't really understand that, and I don't know if they maybe bought different colours. Like I don't know if everyone's maybe got a different colour in skein, but it feels odd to me that like I just have 100 grams of the same colour as day 8. Feels a bit weird, no? Is that weird or is that not weird? I'm not sure. But I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying knitting it. It's the furthest I've ever got with a blanket, to be honest, so even that in itself is like a good thing. And yeah, it's been mostly my meetings knitting, so I just it's just garter, right? So I can just keep going. The only thing is it's starting to get a bit big now, and yeah, it's getting a bit inconvenient. So we will see how I get on with this going forward. But yeah, so far it's looking pretty good. I actually like it. I will say holding it up on camera has made me more confident with liking these colours than I was before I filmed. I think holding up the camera really shows the fade really well, and I wasn't super sold on the fade, and this makes me like it. So yay, that's a bonus. So I need to go wind off, and I just keep being really lazy and not winding off very big balls of this, but what I think I'll do is wind off like a bigger cake of this, and then just knit it from the cone, I think, because I'm not really going anywhere for the next week. So there we have it. So those are all of my projects. That's everything I'm working on. And I guess the last thing is a little update. So as I said, life is really, really busy. I started a new job at the end of October, and start of October, sorry, and it's just really busy, really, really busy. I get the impression that like a lot of people are in the same place right now with work. A lot of people have been very busy, and it feels like it's just go, 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 and that people haven't really like started to cool down for Christmas yet, and I definitely feel like I'm part of that camp. It's a lot of later nights this week and a lot of earlier starts this week, and I'm just feeling very busy, which on the one hand I like. I definitely thrive under the pressure. On the other hand, I want more knitting time. It's also, there's been a couple of things to organise for designing, so I had the Dornie Sweater pattern to write up this week. I had to go dig into there's the Lanark pattern right up, the Dornie chart problem that I thought I had to change all the charts, but I didn't. That was happening, and then this upcoming week I've got to get the Cargill Junior done. So I do enjoy all those things, and I enjoy making time for them. I enjoy knitting more. So it feels like an obligation right now because that's currently coming out of my knitting time. But that's just, I think, the busyness of life at the minute. My current plan is I've got my Lanark Sweater, and that will be my last winter design. That'll come out at the end of February, and then I've got no intentions, definitely nothing anytime soon. I am working on something like in the back of my mind for like September time next year, but I'm hoping to sort of jump into that over the festive period on my time off and kind of do a bit of exploring and a bit of adventuring and see where I land with that. But otherwise, I think I'll be taking a bit of a designing break, especially just to see how busy work is and things like that. I've also got a lot of things I want to be casting on that are not my designs, and I've got 2 more samples of my own designs to knit, and then I've got I really want to cast on an Ingrid sweater by Petite Knit, the cable, no, not Ingrid, a Moby sweater, and I thought we're going to do our lentil knit along with Amy Palco in January, and I want to make at least 2 lentils, I think. I want to make a striped one and a non-striped one, and I'm going to have all my fun advents up in January, and yeah, there's just a lot I want to be casting on, and so I'm looking forward to, like, technically it's my last pattern write up for a wee while, which is quite nice, because I think I just need some more knitting time. Other than that, last weekend I went to a wedding. It was a wedding of 2 of our very dear friends who, one is a PhD student at Cambridge, and so she got married in Keys Chapel, and it was stunning. It was so beautiful. She wore a very glamorous, lovely dress, and a very unexpected dress choice. And then we went for a lovely meal afterwards, and it was just so, so nice. We stayed, it was a very small wedding. I think the meal afterwards, there were 18 of us, including the bride and groom. So it was a very small day, but a really lovely day. And we stayed at an Airbnb with a group of our friends and got to catch up with everyone. So that was lovely. It was a lot of travelling, like down on, I think it was like 5 hours down on Friday, 5 hours back on Sunday. But it was so nice to see everyone, and so nice to get to be there for them on their big day. It was really lovely. They have got a big, so that was like the ceremony, and then they've got a reception in February. The reception is at the same place as Unravel Yarn Festival, 1 week before Unravel, and part of me is wondering if I can justify just hanging around there for a week to go to Unravel, or maybe I should go and like hide a special note for somebody in the same venue and say, go and find this in a week. I don't know. But I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm going to make a dress for that actually. I've ordered some fabric to make a dress for the second wedding, or like the second event. And then this weekend coming, we are going back down south for Friendsmas, which is the same group of friends and a few extras, a few like partners are coming along to that, and I'm looking forward to it so much. I think it'll be really fun, and they've been doing it. I'm one of the partners, so the original group have been doing it for quite a few years now, and last year I had COVID, so I couldn't go last year, so this is my first time there actually, which is exciting. And we're doing Secret Santa and we're cooking a nice big vegan delicious treat, so I'm looking forward to that. So that is next week. This upcoming week, what do we have? I have some people visiting, which I am hoping to entertain, and hopefully lots of knitting time and the Cargo Junior write-up, and I think work should hopefully calm down a little bit. Oh, I have a candle making class with work actually this week. There are lots of different things to like opt into as our Christmas activity. So some are doing a pub quiz and some are doing cocktail making, and I am doing candle making. So I think that's on Tuesday. So yeah, that is about it. And I'm hoping I'm going to really try to do a bit more vloggy fun stuff in the upcoming week, and to see, I don't know, to show a bit more of what's going on around here. We're hopefully getting our Christmas tree. Well, we borrowed a Christmas tree from my mum. We borrowed it last year. We're borrowing the same tree this year. So hopefully we'll get the tree up and some more decorations done. I kind of want to make a wreath. And yeah, I hope to share that with you. So I'll be back next Friday with some more content, and I hope you have a great week. Speak to you then. Bye.
Kind of love, my friend. Pick up some candy canes and hang a wreath on your door. It's Christmas and outside snow's glistening. It's just you and me tonight. It's just you and me tonight. It's just you and me tonight. I'll spend all this Christmas with you.